Hello and welcome again to another Excel at Excel. I am Lloyd and I am here once again with Patrick.
Hey Lloyd.
Hey Patrick, how you doing?
Great. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. We are here again to talk about Excel, and we're going to continue on from our last topic, which was macros. So, Patrick, you had some stuff to show us a little bit more on macros, correct?
Yeah, let me just go ahead and share my screen with you, and we'll just jump right into it.
Awesome.
Um, so, real quickly, I'm just going to step away from macros and functions and whatnot for a little bit. Just you see this screen we're on here. You don't see any grid lines, and you see how this is all blown up. I just
Yep.
want to show people that there's a real easy way to do this. And
Oh, excellent.
let me just back out of that. Let's see. So basically, well, first of all, if you don't want the grid lines right in here in the view, you see where it says grid lines.
Hmm.
If you check it, you see the grid lines come back, and then if you uncheck it, they go away. So that's how you make these grid lines come and go. But if you want, like on this title page, if you want to blow that up, all you have to do is highlight what you want to blow up and click zoom.
Zoom to selection there. Okay.
Zoom to selection, right. And it just blows it up for you and makes it kind of a nice little title page. Or
Right.
there may be other reasons why you want to do that, but anyway, that's just one of those little tricks that come in real handy. So thought I'd share that while we have the opportunity.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
So, again, we did talk about macros last week, and I know we went through them a little bit fast, and um, oh, some very simple macros. I wanted to dig a little deeper into that, and maybe show you why you'd really want to use it. We're going to use a real world example today, but just to recap, last week we talked about why you want to use macros, and here are a few reasons. Maybe you would like to quickly and accurately add or delete a column or two or 10 or however many. And maybe this is a report you do frequently, or some data that you have to manipulate on a daily basis, or it could be a number of reasons, but you may want to add or delete columns or rows. You may want to sort based on any number of criteria. You might want to hide or unhide worksheets all at once. For instance, if I had this worksheet or this workbook open and wanted to do some programming on there, instead of going there and right-clicking and doing unhide, well, I've only got one hidden right now, but if I had, say, 10 sheets hidden,
Hmm.
well, it might be kind of nice if I know I want them all, instead of going through here and clicking one at a time, if I had a macro that just did all those for me, right?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of nice. Maybe I want to protect and unprotect the worksheets all at once. Save them. This is a great one too. If you want to save the worksheet as a PDF, like when you're
Oh,
finished doing
yeah.
all this manipulation, save it as a PDF. You could use a macro to do that. Um, Format your data to make it more readable. So there are a number of ways, or a number of reasons why you might want to use macros. Now there are some pros and cons to macros, and the pros are macros, which, as we talked about last week, is VBA. Um, they always execute the same way every single time. I mean, that's one of the things about macros. They always, once you get it right, it's going to work the same every time.
Okay.
Now, there may be reasons why you have errors that have nothing to do with the macro, and we'll talk about that in the future. But they always operate the same. Macros can perform tasks faster than humans and without error. Um, you can also set up macros for other users. So for instance, let's say you have a whole team of people doing the same type of task that need the same kind of manipulation on their Excel spreadsheet. Well, you can set up macros for them. Let them do the same thing. Macros let you perform other tasks while Excel does the work for you. Now, there are a few downsides. First of all, anyone who uses macros has to have their own copy of Excel. So in other words, you can't just share the spreadsheet with a non-Excel user. They have to actually have Excel.
Hmm.
That's not a real big deal because most people do if they're going to manipulate sheets, but that is one of the
Yeah.
downsides. Um, Also, sometimes the macros don't behave exactly as you expected. Um, but you know what? That's true with any programming. I'm sure you've written programs before, and your logic was flawless, and you thought your code matched the logic, and you ran it, and like, why did it do that? That happens. And sometimes macros are the same way. And actually, while I was preparing for this today, it did exactly that to me, and I had to do a little troubleshoot, um, but nothing real major. Uh, Also, sometimes macros that you create need debugging after Microsoft updates. We didn't see that with macros last week, but we certainly saw it with our technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes Microsoft updates something and the macros don't work as before. Sometimes it's a patch that fixes that automatically. Sometimes you have to change your macros, but so sometimes they do require a little bit of maintenance. So with that said, let's step in straight into an exercise here, and let me lay out the scenario. Let's say every single day, and we're going to use, by the way, this same spreadsheet that we've been using for a while. And I massaged some data so that in the cells so that you're not seeing anything that's proprietary. So I just anonymized, let's say, all these fields here. But let's say every single day your boss wants you to take this raw data sheet like I have right here, and he says, you know what, I don't have time to do this report, but I want to see all of let's see, like I want to know all the projects for each project manager and their engineers or whatever. So in other words, this is just a big raw data dump. So you can see there's a whole bunch of columns here. It's just a bunch of data, really. I mean, if you were trying to read this, it would mean nothing. So my job would be to put it into a more usable format for my manager. And let's say the things I've got to do every day is, first of all, I have to freeze the top row of the worksheet, which you come over here to View, Freeze Panes, freeze the top row, okay? I want to actually do well, I guess I could do them real quickly, but freeze top row. So you see how when you do that, you can scroll down to the bottom of the top row stays there.
Keeps your column
headers visible. Which is real nice because I've got, I don't know, a few thousand rows. So anyway, that's one of the things you need to do. Then you have to take the project manager column and move it into the A positions. So here, okay, the project manager, cut that, move it over here. And it actually takes a little bit of time to do that. I'm not going to actually do all these steps, but I'll run through them. But then you need to take the serial number column and move it over after the text. In other words, you need to take the serial number, and I'll do this in here, move it over here. Okay, so let's say that's a thing you need to do. And then you need to delete the description, location, these columns, okay? Let's say you need to delete all those, and you can come over here and, all right, you're going to delete all those. And let's say, you know what, as you're doing this, I actually went a little too far and I deleted that too. Whoops, right? And you didn't notice till you sent it to your manager, and well, guess what? He's not happy because the report's wrong, or she. And then let's say after that, you want to sort by some columns, okay? And you come up, well, when you sort, you use your data and tell it to sort and whatnot, but I'm not going to do that right now. But for an exercise, let me just show you the power of macros. And this is the same spreadsheet. I've already set up a few macros. I did that, and frankly, it took me about an hour to do. But here's what I did. Let me open up the macros here, and you can see. And you see my naming convention. I did this. I do this sometimes when I know there's going to be a lot of macros. You see how I say step 1, freeze top row, step 2, move project M to column A, et cetera, et cetera. I do that so that I know that which steps go where. Because they're really, what I'm doing here is very important that these steps are done in order. If I place them out of order, we would not have the same impact or same outcome. So I've created all these actions I want to do, and I told you earlier that. So I told you last time that I do this. I name them very descriptively, but also you see I've put a much more detailed description in here. Okay, because I want to be able, when I'm debugging, and let's say I've got 100 of these things. I want to know why I put that particular command in there. Okay, so it may have made sense when I was doing it, and it'll tell me what my logic was. I find that really helps when you're coming back and debugging the programs. But with that said, now even this, it would take me a while to run all 11. I could do run, step 1 run, and I'd come down and do step 2 run, step 3 run. Even that would take a little while. So I'm going to show you today how you can just do a macro to run the macros. Okay.
A macro for your macros is macro-sception.
That's exactly, and that's what I do a lot. Oh, I know what else I wanted to tell you. I will step into edit here. These macros are one function only. This first macro is just freezing the top row. This macro, we're just cutting this column and moving it over to A. This macro, we're just moving the serial number column over to after tech. And these are just one thing. So I'll remove description column and remove location column. Now, the reason I do this is when I'm debugging, or I'll tell you what, let's use even a more likely reason. You send this report to your manager and he or she says, you know what, that location would be really nice. Well, guess what? I can just come back in here and I can remove that location without having to re-record a huge section of macro, right? Mm-hmm. So even I can use macros to reduce my work creating macros. So with that said, here's the final step in this. Here's how I would actually put all these together. And it would be to create a macro to run the macros. So with that said, if you recall last week, how we record a macro, you just click on record macro, and then we're going to name it. In this case, I know I don't have 100 macros, so I'm going to call this step 99. And you cannot have any spaces in the macro name. So you'll see I have underscores there, but so step 99, let's see here, run all macros.
Can you include other characters that might cause it? I assume it's not like file name restrictions where you can't have forward slashes and stuff, so you can use those other characters, but you just can't use spaces, right?
Actually, no. Underscore is the only special character allowed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I accidentally tried some with some other characters, and you will. Well, let me show you here. Let's see here. Let's put a colon in there. And see, okay. So
syntax error.
Okay. Yeah, it'll tell you there's a syntax error. Anyway, we're going to, this is, I know step 99 because it's going to be, I do that because it's going to sort as the last step in my whole task here. Mm-hmm. So my description, step 99. And this, you have no restrictions on characters. So run all macros for finished report. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and we're going to record the macro. Run step 1. Run step 2. That takes a little while. Run step 3. Run step 4. 5. 6, and we're deleting some columns now. And now we're going to sort the first 7 columns, and we're going to stop. Okay, so I've done all that. I've created my macro, and I'm going to come over here, and we're going to run this same macro. I put an error in there.
Okay.
We're just going to play with this. So all I have to do is come up here to macros, step 99 run. It takes a little bit of time to actually run through all the steps.
Right.
Okay, it's finished. So you can see it's scrolling. But I didn't. Project Manager's not over here where I wanted it, and this serial hadn't moved. So that's not the errors. We're just going to fix. Let's say here. We're going to fix. Oh, that's right. Let's click on Edit. So you recall last week we talked about what the actual code looks like. And don't be too scared of this. Just get in here and start reading some after you create the macros, and you'll begin to understand it. For instance, like this here, step 01, freeze top row. And see, this is the description, freeze. Anytime you see this here, this is not something, this is not part of the command here. It's just notes for you. Freeze the top row of the worksheet to make it more readable when scrolling. And, so this is, it tells you, okay, here's your active window and split row 1. So that's telling it to freeze row 1. That's the command for that. And you moving Project Manager to column A. So this comes down here, it selects column C, which is where Project Manager was, and it moves it to column B. Okay, which that was an error. I should have moved it to column A.
Right.
So we're going to correct that here shortly. Let me get back over. Let me show you one other thing too. Let's say I don't like my file names for whatever reason, and I love to standardize my file names, or not my file, but my command names, so that way it's real easy to tell just by looking at the title. But let's say I don't like, I don't know, maybe I want to make that a capital A. Well, it's really easy to do right here in this sub step. You just do your edit right there, and when you save it, well, I'll just go ahead and save it. If you'll recall after the edit, well, see how it says freeze is lowercase. We're just going to change that to uppercase F, and we're going to save it. And now when you go back in, see now how it's an uppercase. So it's real easy to edit. I say it's real easy. Once you get familiar with what you're looking at, it's pretty easy to edit.
Right.
So anyway, let's fix that error real quick and see what happens. So again, let's see, let me make sure I have not frozen. Okay, good. See how it's top row is not frozen.
Right.
So let's fix that error. Say move Project Manager to column A. And I like to come in here and do this because otherwise I've got to go back in and re-record the macro. So we're going to have it moving to column B. So we're going to now move it to column A. Okay. Helps to be in the right place when you're troubleshooting, right? When you're debugging. All right, so we're going to save it now. Close this. And let's just go ahead and run now. See what happens. There we go.
All right.
Now Project Manager's over here. Serial number's over here. See, it scrolls. And what I've done is I've sorted by Project Manager. So you have this Project Manager. I'm not sure why that one didn't sort correctly, but that's one of those things you have to work out. Actually, a few of these didn't sort correctly, but I'm not sure why that is.
So then well, at least you'd know where to look because now you know it's in that step with the sorting, right? So you can go from there.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. That's
exactly right. So I'll show you what I intended to do. And so this would obviously be something that you troubleshoot. And so you just come over here to the data. And what I intended to do was sort. I'm not going to sort by 7 columns, but let's say I'm going to sort by column. Okay, a couple of things here real quickly when we're sorting. Let me back up. On the data, last week we talked about using these sort buttons. Let's use this one so we can dig in a little deeper to sorting because there's a whole lot of things you can do with that. So we're going to sort by, and you see it says column A, B, C, etc. Well, I'm going to come over here to my data has headers and click that because now I can sort by project. It gives you the actual names of the columns. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I know I'm going to sort by project manager, and let's say I'm going to sort by Mako, and let's sort by serial number. Where's it at? There it is. Okay, when I hit OK, see how I did that sort?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's correct. Now I have to go back and figure out why I didn't do that with my macro. I might have forgotten to put that in my macro or something, but yeah, that's something. Those are one of the things that you have to do. You just have to debug your programs when you're finished writing them, because something that, and that's not particularly complex, but something like that, there's a lot of room for errors.
Yeah, and this is this is just in Excel, but this goes further. This is in any program writing that you may do. So
Right.
beyond just working with it here, you'll probably end up having to do this if you go into any higher level coding. But virtual Visual Basic was a good one to start with, and beyond that, I mean, after you compile and run, you're gonna hit bugs, and that's bug smashing is a big thing in coding. You have to
Right.
spend time doing that. So after you compile and run it, spend the time to test it out, check it, make sure you got everything running properly. Everyone's gonna run into bugs. It doesn't matter. No one's perfect. There's no way to just be perfect. You know.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever written a perfect program on my first try.
Exactly. So.
And can you imagine the debugging an organization like NASA has to do?
Oh yeah, no, that's yeah, definitely.
That's complex. But anyway, that's it in a nutshell. How you can create these macros. And I don't know. I didn't time. I didn't time how much time it would take me to actually do that and make it pretty. But I don't know. I saved 5 minutes by doing that. And okay, so it took me an hour to do. I have a debug. It'll probably take another 5 minutes or so
Mm,
figure out that. But um, I took that 5 minute task and made it into 10 seconds.
right.
After a few weeks, I will have made my time back.
Exactly. Yeah, because as you keep using this over and over again, that time saved. It
Right,
just keeps adding up over and over and over. So it's a good thing to do. This is a productivity thing. It's also an ease of life thing. You're not going to have headaches, hopefully, unless something changes with how you need to set up your spreadsheet there, right?
sure.
Yeah. Then you have
Right. Well, right. Yeah. Managers never change their mind, right?
to. Exactly. Yeah.
I do have one bonus thing though, and kind
Okay.
of to that point is I don't know if you can call it word of the wise or what, but um, maybe it's a sneaky thing to do. But when you have this, and let's say, well, like in the example that we used last week, where I took a report that was taking 3 hours to build and changed it to 2 minutes. Well, don't send the report in 2 minutes, okay? Make it look like you worked on it for a while. Otherwise, they're going to want you to do it every time, and you can't always deliver that speed and accuracy.
So keep it on the down low that you have the yeah yeah.
Or if you want to look impressive, um, write a macro to have it run. Go sit in your boss's office and have it send an email while you're sitting in his office.
Oh,
That's really impressive.
spooky. It's like, how did that happen? You're here. Yeah. Automate it all. Yeah, and there's
There you go.
well, thank you so much, Patrick. We appreciate you once again for showing us a little bit more on macros. Um, this has been another Excel at Excel, and we will see you guys next week.